The night was cold. The river below roared like a beast in the dark, its black waters swallowing every sound. On the edge of the bridge, a girl no older than 18 stood trembling, her hair whipping against her tear-stained face. She looked down, clutching the rail, ready to let go. But then, out of the shadows, a voice broke the silence. It wasn't polished, it wasn't commanding, but it carried the weight of someone who had been to the edge himself. "Don't jump," he said, breathless, his voice cracking. "Please don't." And in that instant, a struggling single dad stepped forward, his calloused hands reaching out, not just to save a stranger's life, but to unknowingly change his own forever. Before I continue this heart-stopping story, I'd love to remind you, if stories of kindness and humanity touch your heart, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Whispers of Kindness. Every click helps us share more moments that can change the world. Two-story development. Daniel Harper wasn't supposed to be there that night. He was a single dad, just 35, carrying the weight of 2 lives on shoulders already bent from years of hardship. His little boy, Ethan, was only 7 and the center of his world. Daniel worked late shifts at a factory, barely scraping enough to keep a roof over their heads. Life was a blur of exhaustion and silent battles, late rent notices, cold dinners, and long nights wondering if tomorrow would be any better. That evening, after his shift ended, Daniel took the long way home. Something inside him needed air. He wandered to the old Riverside Bridge, a place he'd once walked with his wife before cancer stole her from him. The bridge was quiet at night, but it held memories, both painful and comforting. But this night, as he approached the center of the bridge, he saw her. A girl standing on the wrong side of the railing. Her small body shook with sobs, her shoes perched dangerously on the narrow edge. The sight made Daniel's heart freeze. He knew despair when he saw it. He'd tasted it himself in the nights he cried silently into his pillow after burying his wife. "Hey," he said softly, careful not to startle her. His boots scraped the concrete as he inched closer. "It's cold out here. Go away," she snapped through tears, her voice breaking. "You don't know what it's like." Daniel's throat tightened. He wanted to say she was wrong, that he knew too well. But this wasn't about him. It was about her. He whispered, "I don't know your pain, but I know what it feels like to think it'll never get better. I've been there, and I'm still here." She turned slightly, her face pale under the flickering bridge light. Her eyes, red, swollen, haunted, met his. For a moment the world stilled. "Why?" she asked. "Why are you still here if it hurts so much?" Daniel took a deep breath, his voice trembling. "Because there's a little boy who calls me Dad, and every morning when I want to give up, I see his smile. And that's enough to keep me standing." The girl's lip quivered. A tear slid down her cheek as her grip on the railing loosened, just slightly. Daniel moved closer, his palms open, his voice softer now, like a lullaby. "Please, don't let the darkness convince you this is the end. Sometimes the people who feel most invisible are the ones meant to shine the brightest." And in one swift, desperate moment, he lunged forward, wrapping his arms around her waist, pulling her back over the railing. She fought for a second, panicked, but then collapsed into his chest, sobbing uncontrollably. Daniel held her, his chin pressed to the top of her head, whispering the only words he knew. "You're safe. You're not alone. You're safe." You too. Her name was Leela, 17, no home, no family left. Her mother had abandoned her years ago, her father long gone. She'd been shuffled through foster homes, shelters, and finally the streets. That night she had decided the world had no place for her. Daniel didn't let her go home to the cold that night. Instead, he took her to his tiny apartment where Ethan was already asleep under a threadbare blanket. Daniel gave Leela the couch and a cup of warm tea. For the first time in months, she slept without fear. The days turned into weeks. What started as an act of rescue grew into something unexpected. Leela became part of their small, fragile world. She helped Ethan with homework, taught him to draw, and laughed at his silly jokes. Daniel saw light return to her eyes, little by little, like sunrise after a storm. But the truth still lingered. He was just a single dad barely surviving. How could he possibly take on another life when he was already struggling with his own? The turning point came one afternoon when Ethan fell sick with a fever. Daniel panicked. He couldn't afford another hospital bill. But Leela sat beside the little boy, sponging his forehead, humming a lullaby Daniel remembered his wife used to sing. He watched from the doorway, his eyes stinging with tears. That night, Leela whispered to him, "You saved me on that bridge. Please let me stay. Let me be part of your family." Daniel looked at her. This girl who was once a stranger ready to end her life, now holding onto his son like a sister, maybe even like a daughter. And in that moment he realized something profound. Maybe it wasn't him saving her. Maybe she was saving them too. 2 months passed. Daniel worked harder, took extra shifts, and fought through exhaustion to keep the tiny family afloat. But in their little home, laughter began to outweigh silence. Meals, though humble, were shared with gratitude. Ethan called Leela sis one morning at breakfast, and she cried quietly into her cereal. And then came the day Daniel feared. The social worker knocking on the door. They had discovered Leela's runaway file. She was still underage, technically a ward of the state. Daniel thought they'd take her away. But when the worker entered, she saw something different. Not a runaway, not a burden, but a girl who had found her family. After weeks of evaluation, hearings, and paperwork, the unimaginable happened. Daniel was granted legal guardianship. Leela Harper, no longer a girl on a bridge, no longer invisible. If this story has touched your heart, don't forget, like, comment, and subscribe to Whispers of Kindness. Your support helps us share more stories of hope, healing, and second chances. Years later, Daniel would sit on that same bridge with Ethan and Leela, pointing out the stars above the dark river. They would laugh, not knowing the depth of what that place once meant. For Leela, it was the edge of despair. For Daniel, it was the place where grief turned into grace. Life had not given them riches, but it had given them something far greater, each other. And that was enough. Because sometimes the people you save are the very ones who save you in return. And if you are ever standing on your own bridge, believing the darkness is stronger than the light, remember this: even the smallest act of kindness can be the hand that pulls you back.